This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. It is great to be back in studio, folks. I was back for like a day on Friday. We did a quick show with Frank after I pulled a 26-hour straight drive through from central Ontario. This is like the first full week back in studio. I left June 26th, I believe, 27th, and was gone all of July, the majority of August, and came back, and boy, a lot of stuff has happened in the world of bass fishing. We're going to get caught up on that this week. We're going to do 6 shows this week, regularly scheduled broadcasting Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a day 4 with Frank Scalish on Thursday. But we are also going to do some bonus shows during this week at 10 a.m. Central Time following today's regularly scheduled show. So I guess, well, no. If we go over, we go over. Brad Fuller from the NPFL did a really good interview with Luke Duncan on Low Budget Live last night. Big announcement from the NPFL. Midway through their season this year, no forward-facing sonar in 2025. Brad's going to come on. I've listened to the majority of that show this morning, and he's going to kind of break down some of that in an abbreviated breaking news segment of BTL. And then Wednesday, we have Matt Becker and hopefully Spencer Sheffield, who won the team series event, the MLF team series event that was live. Guys, I think this one might actually have some legs. It was weird. It was like 2 guys on the front of the boat. It gave me serious team vibes. They were kind of cutting up with each other. You saw how guys worked together, who hogged the trolling motor, who fished, how it was a cool dynamic. So we're going to talk to them. They got the trophies. I don't know if they got money or how that worked, because I was kind of gone for that, but definitely Matt Becker on that. And then Wednesday night, Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment, a regular guest on BTL, is going to go on. And over the last month, he has been on the water, and he's been alternating days with forward facing and without forward facing. He's been documenting bites, catch ratio, the size of the bites, the areas where he's catching them, the baits that he's using them. And then he has taken this data, compiled it together, and has some really cool results. The Elite Series season is over now, and one of the guys who had a really good year seemed to be in the middle of a lot of stuff, both on and off the water, but a 14th place finish. He's fishing the Bassmaster Classic for the second time in his home state, just down the road on Ray Roberts, and that is the one and only Chris Zaldain. Chris, thanks for jumping on BTL.
Oh, always, Matt. Good to be back, man. What has it been exactly 365 days since we talked last?
Yeah, so I had you on August 29th, 2023, prior to the start of this season. And it was a 20,000 view BTL. I kind of clickbaited the title a little bit. I was like, Chris gets real about FFS. But even back then, like go back a year ago, did you have any idea what we were in store for just as a whole in the 2024 Bassmaster Elite Series season?
Well, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I mean, I talked to a lot of forward-facing sonar guys, obviously, prior to the big blow-up. I was a little late to the party for sure. But I knew this was coming. Like I knew this year was going to be all about it. I made a post like back in January where I said, hey, you're going to see more jig-headed minnows, pinging jig-headed minnows in 2024 than you've ever seen. And that's exactly what we saw. Now, it's, seeing the news with the NPFL, that is freaking cool. I mean, it's cool for them to step out and just kind of, say it straight up. And, we'll see where it ends up, but it's crazy because every week that goes by, every month that goes by, whether we're competing or off the water as we are now, it's like you hear, great arguments for and great arguments against. And I just want to know what Bass is doing. I sent an email out to Chase last week, and dude, I got to order my boat. I got to order my equipment. I have no idea what to order. And so we're kind of stuck there.
Is it a cat and mouse game? So MPFL came out, and we'll talk to Brad later, and I want to get into that. I have some opinions on that. I mean, one of the quotes from Luke's show last night, he said, I'm not here to placate people who want to run their damn mouths. This was purely a business decision. Those are two quotes. I want to get into that. I think it was a brilliant business decision for the MPFL, especially in their position where they stand in kind of the professional bass fishing atmosphere. That's neither here nor there. What I want to do, I want to jump right into this. Now, fair warning, Chris. I said, hey, do you want to do a little pre-meeting on kind of what you said? Nope, have at it.
Nope.
So I want to take you back, and I'll preface this with, I want to get your state of the industry for the Elite Series. You are an elder statesman on the Elite Series, and I want to preface your State of the Union with the September 26, 2018 post that you put out on Facebook, and that was the I'm not biting post.
Yeah.
And that was back when the split was happening and all this, and it said this is September 26 from Chris. You said, I'm not biting. I worked my ass off to get here, and I will stand by the organization that provides a fair platform for all ages and skill levels, from the Bass Nation, high school, college, team, and open levels. I hope the fishing community realizes that the Bassmaster Elite Series and the Bassmaster Classic are goals worth setting and goals worth reaching. It is up to you to get there and find partners along the way. The harder you work, the more you are rewarded. I appreciate my own sponsors and will continue to wear them proudly into the bright future. I have full confidence in the new owners of Bass and their team moving forward, and truly wish the best of luck to my brothers and their decisions this week.
Wow.
So,
My PR
so that was that
did
statement.
a great job with that post.
That was well written. That was that was probably that was a very viral post.
No, it was, and I think I posted a picture of my jersey with the Bass shield on, Bass Elite Series shield on there. That was a different time, bro. Gosh, I mean, we talk about the split a lot on the Bilge podcast and all the emotions that came with it. But here we are, 5 years later. Dude, those first 2 years, 2019, 2020, you asked Matt Herron, Bill Lowen, Rick Clun, Steve Kennedy, Drew Benton, Seth Feider, the guys who got invited and stayed, they will all tell you that, dude, 2019, 2020, those were like the best years for bass fishing moving forward on the BASS side. There was just a team facet to it that everyone was on board with. And let's face it, it was all competition driven, right? Ooh, there's competition. Let's try to be better than what they're doing over there. But now in full honesty, full disclosure, full candor, I feel like we got a little complacent. And just looking, and for those who don't know, in New York last month, at the Champlain event, we had an angler meeting where everyone got their thoughts off their chest. And the takeaway from that meeting, dude, it was, there was a lot of frustrated anglers. Nothing like we saw in 2019, nothing like we saw in 2020. We started seeing kind of complacency, I think, in about 2021, 22, 23. And now we are right back where we were in 2017, 2018, where there's a lot of frustrated anglers, whether it be the payouts, whether it be structure, whether it be forward-facing sonar, whether it be this guy did this to me, that guy did that to me. We're right back in 2017. So since that post, a lot has changed. What is the answer? How do you fix it moving forward? I still have confidence in BASS and their leadership. We just need a little bit of dynamic thinking, something like the MPFL, where they're not afraid to step out and get rid of forward-facing sonar. And I kind of applaud MLF for, from what I hear, they're going to try to do a little hybrid circuit, and it all boils down to the fans and what the fans want. Because this sport, it's not very big if you look at it, right? I mean, you look at if you just gauge like YouTube followers and engagement, YouTube is a great indicator for that. The number is like 50 to 70,000 as far as like active tournament users and engagement. And that number hasn't grown for years and years and years. So how do you grow it? I think you start with the fans. You really do. And on the BASS side, like I said, it's going to take some dynamic thinking to move forward.
When you jumped in as a a rookie in your first Elite Series tournament down in Placa, Florida in 2012. What was the environment like with the anglers and the organization, and then the intra angler communication? Did you have, was it friendly? Was there a sense of vibe? Was it different from 12 to 19? Because that was a very critical period of the Elite Series. It was the post ESPN era.
Yeah.
That they were trying to figure things out. It was still ESPN, but working on other networks. So what was that vibe like when you look back in 2012 as opposed to 24 now? Because that was before a lot of stuff had gone under the bridge.
Yeah, that's a deep question, Matt. So first of all, 2012 was my rookie season. 2013, it's kind of hard because your opinion is skewed because you're fresh. It's fresh. It's brand new. Cliff Crochet and I talk about this all the time. Like those first couple years on the Elite Series. Oh my gosh, I made it. Oh my gosh, we're going down to Okeechobee. We're going to Placa Florida. I've never been here before. Everything's fresh and new. Oh my gosh, I'm fishing down the bank. There's KVD right around the corner. Oh, there's Ike and Ellie, the guys I looked up to. And I see the same look in the rookies' eyes now when they come around the corner and see Seth Fight or see Brendan Polinick or see whoever. So that kind of opinion is it's fresh, brand new. You're young, you're dumb, and you don't know. You're just happy to be there. But going back to your question, I think there's kind of a simple answer to what the feeling and the vibes are. Back then, we had weekly angler not weekly, but tournament angler meetings, partner pairings. Now we can do away with the partner pairings. You pair with your marshal. Hey, how you doing? My name's Chris, blah, blah, blah. We could do away with that. But it seems like a lot of the angst and disgruntlement stems from not being able to talk amongst your peers, talk to leadership week in and week out. So, post COVID, we stopped doing the angler meetings, and a lot of that pent up anger or pent up conflict that a lot of the anglers have, they have to save it until the very end of the season, where it comes out in this giant email with all the anglers on this email, CC, Chase and Lisa and Chris. And so I think the simple answer to all that angst and is to go back to angler meetings where we're on Okeechobee one week and then Palatka the next. If something happened in Okeechobee, hey, I want to get it off my chest at Palatka on that Wednesday night before the tournament. Let's address it now so that issues don't arise months and months later. And as you guys know, we've seen a lot of it this year. I mean, we've seen a lot of it. And like you opened up the show, Matt, I've been in the middle of a lot of controversy, partially because we do a little podcast, and partially because 13 years on tour, I'm not gonna take crap.
Is it okay? So I ran with Harold for so many years.
Oh yeah, smart man.
Yeah, that dude had a lot of beef with guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of run-ins.
I mean, he was talking about, he would tell me stuff like that he doesn't like this guy because of what happened in a backwater in 1978, and then this guy had his dad practice for him. Yep. And then this guy said something about this other guy in a newspaper, even though he was being a hypocrite. Dude, I get the feeling it's the exact same as it has always been. It is 100% the social media element, which then rolls into let's face it, what me and you do for a living, because the bilge and the social media is a big part of your living now too, not just on the water.
It is. It's been like, I talked to Rick Clunn at the last event, and shout out to Rick Clunn, dude, 50 years of fishing. That's amazing. We camped next to each other at that final event up there in New York. And I asked him when he started setting up his camper right next to mine, I was like, hey man, with all this drama going on, has it always been like this? He cut me off and said, yes, it's been like this since the beginning of time, but it is now amplified by a million because of social media. This guy does this, then it spreads. And then a podcast like mine, a podcast like yours amplifies it again by another million. And then there's other guys on social media and TikTok who said, well, I heard this, I heard that. It's always been like that. It's just amplified by social media.
So how do we cover that, Chris? Do you feel like an obligation to cover it, to let what's going on? I struggle with this a lot because
Yep.
I'm a big locker room guy.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a big what happens. There
Yeah.
are certain things that are on the water that stay between anglers. If you listen to BTL for a long time, you know there's a lot of stuff that I don't touch. It's not because I'm not scared to
Yep.
touch it. It's because
Yep.
I don't feel like it's my place to touch it, and I
Yep.
don't have the
That's your
ability
brand.
to
Sure.
accurately assess it. If I have the
Sure.
opportunity to bring the guys on, I will and talk about it. But how do you determine like what is good for the sport, what helps grow and people understand it, and what is just BS that muddies the water,
Yep.
devalues the anglers as a whole, and sours the listeners and the viewers from the sport that they grew up loving?
And it's such a small sport that we grew up loving. And you know, how does Fox News determine what they want to cover? How does CNN, MSNBC determine what they want to cover? It all boils down to what is your brand and what is your agenda? What are you trying to accomplish? You know, BTL has been absolutely classy in everything they've done since the beginning of time. Mark Jeffries, you know, then you look at some other guys on social media where their brand is complete opposite. I heard this, I heard that. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not, but that is the word on the street. And again, they are using social media to be social and to, you know, to put out there what they heard. And by the way, I gotta show you something here. Do you remember this? Were you there when Mark Jeffries gave me this bottle of champagne right here?
Yeah, was that for your first win?
No, well,
Or
no. Mark Jeffries gave this bottle of champagne to me for my first win, for my first Elite Series trophy, and it is still unopened. He told me to open this thing on stage the first time you win an Elite Series
he
trophy.
really went all
And
out with the Cook's Brute, didn't he?
Bro, oh, he did. He absolutely did. Look at that. And it's been traveling around with me ever since 7-8 years ago or whatever. So shout out to Mark Jeffries. It is still unopened, but hopefully we could open that thing soon. I thought I was gonna get it done at Champlain, but yet again, the swim bait, you know, double-edged sword, as you guys all know. I thought we were going to open it there, but we sent it either way. Hopefully we could crack that thing open on the classic stage at Ray Roberts. But yeah, again, going back to what are you trying to accomplish? What is your brand? And like I said, you do a great job at steering clear of the BS. Now our side on the Bilge podcast, we kind of delve into some of that off the wall stuff, and that's partially because we hear a lot. And Trait has her ear to the ground all the time, but she's always got receipts. She always has proof to back it up in case poop hits the fan, and the receipts need to be shown. She's always got receipts for anything we talk about on the Bilge.
And it is interesting because it has pulled the Bilge specifically has pulled the curtain back when you have some legal stuff on, when you have polygraphers, when you have anglers who have been into it. As a whole, though, I wrote this down and I wanted to ask you this. Where does the podcasting, the YouTube, the shows, the info clicks, where does that go from now on? Because typically everything escalates. Like, where does that go? Do you think it's good for the sport? Is it bad for the sport? Like, what is the end game with this information surrounding tournaments? I don't know where it's going.
So, a couple things. First of all, you do the fishing thing, you do the podcast thing, you do it all. At the end of the year, or sometimes quarterly, all those names and logos on a man's jersey, boat, and truck, those companies that pay you, they ask you for engagement and numbers. And that started 6-7 years ago when social media really took off. How do you provide engagement and numbers on a spreadsheet? We just did one. Trait and I just sat down and did one 2 days ago. Where do those numbers come from? They come from clicks. Where do the clicks come from? Content that people consume. And 10 years ago, that was not a thing. Like, you just go out, catch bass, and the only numbers on a spreadsheet you had were your finishes that year. So the social media thing and engagement and clicks and turning those numbers into the people that pay you, that is not going away. Matter of fact, it's only going to get greater and greater and greater as the time goes on. Positive, negative, does not matter, but those engagements, comments, and clicks are valuable to the people that pay you. things are changing. I mean, things are changing rapidly, and like I said, after 13 years of doing this, you got to stay on top of all that, and it's just uh, one more item in the description of being a professional bass angler amongst all of that.
The first was Rick your first kind of published episode of The Bilge?
Yeah, we wanted to have Rick Klon on very first and foremost, and he brought the heat, and then we followed it up with a couple of bangers.
John B, I think.
John B, and then we had early on we had Greg Hackney, Kevin Van Dam, and Mark Zona. But our whole goal with that podcast, it was Trait's brainchild, is just to talk about things that are going on in the bass fishing world that are talked about behind the scenes, and we just kind of brought them through the curtain on the front stage, and again, we've gone controversy, we've gone chill, and we've gone extreme, one extreme to the other, and the consumer seems to like it.
So that would have been October of 2022. Established brand before then. Since the show and your commitment to it, how much bigger would you feel your brand has gotten? Because I mean, I see you at this past Bassmaster Classic stage. I mean, central focus of billion-dollar brands on the classic stage, doing shows all over. Talk about the growth of your brand since the show, or lack thereof.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was 2022.
Yep.
I would have to say the biggest jump of my career was the split 2019, when we again, you mentioned it, myself and 5 other dudes said, hey, look, we're staying here. That was the biggest jump, because let's face it, all the huge names ahead of me and on top of me, they all left. So immediately, naturally, we got brought to the top as far as coverage, as far as stories written, blah, blah, blah. But going to 2022, it has helped so much. I mean, the YouTube channel has grown. Now we're no Mr. Beast. We're no Joe Rogan podcast, none of that. But in the bass fishing world, I think we've done a pretty good job at maintaining relevance. Now we are on a little break. We finished up the season. We're taking a breath here. We're going to South Africa next week, and we're chilling out just a little bit. But Trait is already, there's a whiteboard behind me here where she's laid out a lot of plans for the Bilge podcast moving forward. You just got to keep the ball rolling. I've had text messages from you and other podcasts where they're like, oh, dude, this thing is awesome. Make sure you keep it rolling. But we run into some obstacles, right? We like to do it live. We like to do it in studio. And as you know, that is tough. It's tough lining up guests. So that's kind of our brand, our lane, and we're just gonna run with that. So, and I'll tell you what, Matt, just like you said when we were in the green room there has been no shortage of topics to talk about in 2024. It seems like every single week, every other week, there's something new to talk about. And bass fishermen, let's face it, as a whole, they're super dramatic. They want to know what is going on. I heard this, she said that, he said that. I heard this guy, did a little something over here in the gray area. Let's talk about it. There's no shortage of things to talk about.
I mean, obviously now it's forward-facing sonar. You talk about it ad nauseum. I get sick of talking about it, but it is the hottest topic that's going on in the industry. Before that, it was the split in 2019. Before that, it was the Alabama rig. Yeah. I remember in both instances, we would have shows where Mark and I are meetings where Mark and I would say, okay, how can we work shows in around this where this isn't the only topic that we're talking about. But that's what even the people who are saying, I'm sick of hearing about this, that's what you want to hear about. So listen, we're a world of immediacy and recency biased here. This will eventually phase out and we'll work back on it. But right now it is. That being said, we're going to take a break.
Yep.
And when we come back, I have some statistics, and I also have an article that you were featured in following the best year of your career, which was 2019. That I think I would just like to get your take on it, considering all things that are happening in 2024. So it's BTL on a Tuesday after a holiday Monday. We will be back with the one and only Chris Zaldain right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Gear that just plain works. Cast after cast after cast. AFTCO. Any fish, any water.
Gamakatsu, the innovation leader in fish hooks, is launching Nano Alpha technology in 2024. Nano Alpha is a new finish available on Gamakatsu's most popular hook styles. It delivers 2 times slicker performance, 4 times better corrosion resistance. Nano Alpha technology makes the world's greatest fish hooks even better in 2024 to help anglers catch more fish.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Tuesday, talking with Chris Zaldain. Are you pumped that you get another shot in the home state?
Oh, yeah,
March?
absolutely. Ray Roberts, and it's crazy. Today's a real ugly day, but before we head to South Africa next Monday, I'm going to try to get a couple days in out on Ray Roberts and just try to, figure out the late summer to early fall transition, just to see what kind of, the fish are doing, how they move and things. I know it's a completely different time of year in March, but I'm going to spend as much time as possible on this place until it goes off limits on January 1st. And it'll be interesting to see how many of these hardworking rookies we have that made the Classic come out here and spend some time on the home pond of Ray Bob. And that's going to be an amazing event. As you know, you spend a lot of time here in DFW. Easy flights in and out. This is going to be a monster of a Bassmaster Classic, and I can't wait for that one.
What'd you learn the first time around that you can't wait to do better in 20?
Yeah, well, that year, the one Hank Cherry won, it was a weird thing where, COVID had moved the tournament back to a summer tournament, and we had really stupid rain. So, I mean, it was 6 feet in the bushes, where the local advantage, all that time, days and hours I've spent on that place, were completely out the window. So if I were to put it into just a couple of words, what I learned, open mind. I mean, that's it. You hear it all the time. Keep an open mind no matter what the conditions are, and don't worry about that Wednesday night tournament you won, back 5-6 years ago, and just keep an open mind. Cliche, but very simple and effective.
You said you camped next to Rick. So Rick is famous in the fishing world for like going years with only throwing a square bill or a spinnerbait.
Yeah.
Like, have you talked with him about that? Like, hey, like I got a little issue here with this like harness bait, and I have a tendency to like pick it up for days and days because I know what it can do, but I think it might be keeping me from winning. So like, have you guys had that talk?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I asked him on air on the Bills podcast, Rick, how do you close? Like, you've closed so many tournaments. I having problem closing out a 4-day tournament. how do you close? And he kind of paused a little bit, and I spoke with him afterwards as well. It's all in your head. I mean, it's literally the approach you take, the adjustments you make going into day 3, going into day 4. I've had the lead many, many times, day 2, day 3, but it's not a 2 or 3 day tournament. It's a 4-day tournament, and it's all between the ears. And again, going back to the open mind thing, you can't get stuck with that swim bait in your hand going into day 4 when you've exhausted all your wind-blown main leg points. When you're fishing for big ones like that, especially during the classic like we have in March, and this too, it's like, you've caught the biggest alpha bass on those spots, and you just have to keep changing it up and, listen to that voice in the back of your head to make those adjustments.
There's a lot more alpha bass coming to weigh-ins now, aren't there?
Oh, dude, there are. Dude, you know what's crazy is here we are, September 3rd, right? For all the hunters out there, this is the start of hunting season. The dove hunters are out there. September has been probably the worst month of the year to go out and go bass fishing. And you've heard it all the time. The last, 20, 30, 40 years, bass like to suspend in September until that tournament we had on Lake Fork in September, 4 or 5 years ago when Patrick Walters showed us all those suspended fish in the month of September are catchable using forward-facing sonar. So September has historically been the toughest month to fish in that late summer, early fall transition. But now it seems like it's the easiest time to fish because those suspended ones are looking to bite once you see them.
It sounds like you're good with, like, if they say it's gone, like,
either way. Either way. I had a text conversation with my best buddy growing up. Shout out to Steve Erickson, big fan of your show. He works over at Google in Silicon Valley.
Better life decisions than me.
yeah. He's a good dude and a fan of the sport, fan of your show. He said he's been watching a lot of the YouTube practice videos and things where I break down like what I'm doing. I show the live scope screen, the baits I'm using and everything like that. And I told him, dude, I think I've weighed in this year, 14th place finish in AOY. It's been just a steady, quiet season for me. A lot of the 20s and top 20s, top 30s. But dude, I think 90% of the fish I weighed were on live scope this year. I mean, how about that? But I would love to see it go back to, reading the water, reading what the wind's doing, what the current's doing, the lake conditions and things like that. And I wouldn't mind making a few casts, out into open water with 0 fish around just to get that negative feedback in your head. Okay, the fish aren't here. Let's make the intuitive adjustment and, find where the fish are without seeing them first,
You're not worried about stopping the progression of the sport?
There's that argument again.
It's not an argument. It's literally a question. Yeah. I wasn't arguing. I literally asked you that question. Is that something that you think about? This is leading to something. I'm curious on how you answer this.
No, I said argument because, you see a lot in the comments. That's probably the top argument for banning a forward-facing sonar. Yes, there's concern there, obviously. But the other one I hear that pops up a lot too is all that money that Garmin puts into the sport. It's not that much. To this point, it's not that much. All that money that Lowrance puts in, all that money that Humminbird puts in. I know Humminbird puts in a pretty penny, but that argument of the electronics companies are paying bass so much money, it's not that much.
All right, here's where I'm going with the progression. It's like a 3-step deal. So
I dodged that question, by the way.
Yeah, I know you did. I also like when you were like, "Oh, look at this bottle of champagne."
Yeah.
So your best year, you've had 4 or 5 top 10 finishes in Angler of the Year standings. 14th was a very solid year this year, but it didn't compare to your 2019 season. 2019 season was your best year on the Elite Series. Number 2nd place finishes, 4th in the Angler of the Year. You vied for that thing right until the end. I find that interesting. So I was doing some research and I came across an article where he talked about the 2019 season. Now, full disclosure, this is on Bass First and you were with Humminbird at the time. Some of this stuff might be a little bit of pro speak, but there's some quotes in here that I want to read, and I want to get your comments on that because I see a lot of what is happening with what the rookies did this year to some of the stuff back then. And then we're going to take it way back to 2004 afterwards and compare it to a different era.
Okay.
So in 2019, you said, quote, I had 3 second place finishes this year, and the one that sticks out most to me was my second place finish on Lake Lanier. I was catching huge spotted bass. A lot were suspended over trees, literally 50 to 60 feet of water. I was getting my bites in 40 to 50 feet. There's absolutely no way I would have been able to fish that program without 360 imaging. You, Zaldain emphasized how the technologies have changed his technique this season. Originally a California kid from the West, he felt especially confident this year. The imaging absolutely changed the way I fish, and I spent the vast majority of my time fishing off the bank. I don't remember in 8 years of tournament fishing where I spent so much time out there. But with the imaging, nothing was able to hide from me at any point, which gave me the confidence out there under unpressured areas.
Oh, that is awesome, dude. Wow. That is awesome. That is definitely pro talk. Okay. And when that writer approached me, I think it was like, yeah, we're writing something for Humminbird, piece for Humminbird. Now, 90% of that is true, but in all honesty,
it sounds a lot like what we're hearing over the last couple years, Chris. And there was zero backlash on that. There was no one out there saying, well, by God, Chris got good with this 360 imaging. By God, he's got a spot lock feature on his Ultrix, which was another huge contributor to his confidence in unpressured areas this tournament season. And once you found offshore spots that you liked, you were able to accurately lock your boat in the exact area without fail.
So going back to that particular tournament, it was a February tournament, huge spotted bass suspended in timber that were 40 to 50 feet deep. I was using Mega 360 to locate the trees, but you weren't able to see the fish live, swim around down there, know exactly which branch that fish is on. Is it on this branch, that? I had to feel with my 3/8 ounce ball head. Hey, back then, right? Ball headed, a little 3-inch spark shad. And I was able to, I had to feel my way through there with the swim bait. So I'm not watching the bait and the fish react to the bait. I was just locating the timber that was out 80 feet in front of me, but I had to feel my way through there. And each and every bite was a surprise. Like, it's not like, oh, he's coming for it. Oh, got him. It was a surprise each and every time. So there was definitely a facet to that approach where it's like old school fishing. You had to feel your way through there. And as far as like the success in 2019, some will say, oh, it's because KVD and all those guys, they all left, so your competition wasn't there. That's partially true, yes. But in 2019, I fished pissed, man. I was pissed. I wanted to make the best, absolute best live fishing product out there.
Chip whatever on your shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something to prove.
Huge chip on my shoulder, where every time they had a live camera in my boat, I would make sure and explain everything that is going on, because one, I wanted it to be entertaining, and two, I wanted people to learn every single thing that I'm doing. And here, and the week before or the week after, the BPT had their tournament where, they had their awesome new live coverage and everything. I wanted to compete with that, and I benefited from that drive to do better and to make a great showing, and it showed with like 3 seconds, a fifth, and a whatever place finish. But yeah, it's funny in this sport what you find to motivate you, whether it's your bank account is on, heck, I only got $2,000 in my bank account. I better cash a $10,000 check this week, and trust me, that happens a lot. Been there a million times. But it's interesting what motivates you. Or is it the competition side? I just like to be on top. Or, another league starting up. I want to be better. I want our team to be better than this league starting up. So it's really interesting what motivates you. Same thing in golf, tennis, hockey, whatever it is. When you find that awesome motivator, maybe it's a new girlfriend. Maybe you just ditched the old girlfriend. Hey, I'm going to show her. It's really interesting to see what motivates each and every individual in the sport.
All right, let's go back to 2004. You know what happened in 2004?
What happened in 2004?
Side imaging. Humminbird came out with their patent side imaging. It didn't become commercially available till 2005. But there's a angler, and like I said, this is just for conversation. I'm not saying this, but from who would you say the best at side imaging is? If you were to pick a guy who dialed in the side imaging and dominated with it for a 5-year period, who are you going with?
Absolutely, Kevin Van Dam. You know it.
So Now, granted, this is his rookie year. You're talking bigger fields because Invitationals had 250 to 300. I understand, but this is for comparison's sake. So from 1991 to 2004, Kevin Van Dam had 7 wins in 14 years. Humminbird Side Imaging comes out in 2004. From 2005 to 2008, Kevin Van Dam had 7 wins in 3 years.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. He must have been getting information.
I mean,
no, not at all. He was really good at the offshore game, cranking, of course, but utilizing that technology. Again, it's not live technology, but it was able to show him all the ledges and structure off the bank that guys weren't targeting. And what's crazy now, too, you hear Matt Herron say it all the time, Bill Lowen, all the focus right now in 2024 is fishing off the bank with electronics. And, a lot of those shallow water hammers will tell you it's taking the pressure off the bank, which allows me to be competitive on the bank. Now, you look at some of the guys who were bank beaters on the Elite Series Tour this year in 2024 that did not do so well. Look at Hackney. He barely made the Classic. I think Heron missed out on the Classic. Bill Lowen is in the Classic. I'm not sure. But all the focus is off the bank, and that's what Kevin was doing back in the early 2000s. He was just doing it with side imaging. A bit more work. You got to idle around, you got to mark the structure on the side imaging. You got to go up to the trolling motor, dump it in the water, find your waypoint, line it up. And then again, with my little swim bait, he did the same thing with that crankbait where he was feeling his way through that structure, and every single one of his bites on, right after he side imaged something was a surprise. Oh, there's one, So, I mean, that's the biggest thing with the 360s and the side imaging is you don't see the fish live. You don't, it's a guess. When you put that trolling motor in the water, it's just a guess. You're just guessing out there and feeling your way through the structure. And another thing, is, finding structure is easy with all the electronics we have, whether it's live, whether it's side imaging or 360. Finding that structure is super simple. You look at the shadows, you look at the structure, boom, there it is. But we're not weighing in structure on the scales. We're weighing in bass. So when you bring the forward-facing live element into it, you're able to see the bass. Doesn't matter about the structure. You're there casting at bass and not the structure itself.
Let's go to 2012. You know what happened in 2012?
That was my rookie season. I was just excited to be there.
What was introduced in 2012?
Was it 360?
That would have been Humminbird 360. That was when Keith Combs went on his unprecedented 3 TTBC titles for over $500,000 and breaking the 100 pounds mark on Lake Fork in 3 out of 4 years, heavily relying, although not very vocally, on the 360
and
to find small brush piles on Conroe that no one else was targeting, to find the same thing on.
Yep, with a deep diving crankbait, Chartreuse Blue, either 6XD or 10XD. I remember that time. And again, a crankbait, deep diving crankbait is a search bait. But when was the last time you've seen a video of a pro in the last 3 years talking about a search bait? No one uses a search bait anymore. What is a search bait? It's the search bait is that 12-inch screen or 22-inch screen on the front of your boat now. It's crazy. And why risk losing them on a treble hook when you could just use a jig-headed minnow and stick them every time and land about 19 out of 20 of your bites. It's a weird time.
That's fair. So I say all those things just to point out some stuff in history where it is and an angler was able to dominate. Now, a lot of that wasn't exposed as rapidly because it's, in the world of social media, this ties together the first half of the show where everything is immediately exploited for views, for clicks, for information, for sponsor sharing to provide that.
Oh yeah. Guys are overlaying their 10-pound catches on a screen recorded, live scope video and boom.
But you remember,
guys learn it.
2014, 2015, Kentucky Lake, the ledges. How many guys in practice were fishing? Guys were sitting down idling. Timmy Horton sat down for 7.5 hours on the final day at Kentucky Lake and idled until he saw a school on his side imaging, caught 20 pounds in the last 30 minutes, had a live camera with him, and was was rendered a hero
Yep.
for his ability to sit behind and stare at a screen, sitting down, catching those fish. Now, we also talked about recency bias, and I just want to get your take on this.
Yep.
Is this not the same thing, except it's more widely adapted because everyone knows there were guys doing this in 18, 19, 20. It is now more widely advanced.
Yep.
Is this is where I get to the question of what shouldn't, it doesn't matter. But I just pointed examples where you could have gone and said, well, look at this with KVD. He's dominating this. Look at this with Keith Combs. He's dominating this. Look at how Chris is using all these things to catch fish that he didn't know existed. They're dominating all of this. Is there not part of you that wants to let this play out and see how it adapts? Because you want to throw the lures into it. I got a buddy at Juice's Jigs who's got 600 messages in his inbox wanting a $15 hand-tied hair jig.
Wow.
And that's because of forward-facing sonar.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, have you seen all the stuff that's coming out of Japan and how hard it is? So how do we know we're not just in a transition?
Yeah, no, we
and
don't.
We're not just in another era that, just like all of the controversy is exploited and talked about rapidly, the techniques and the tactics are exploited and talked about rapidly as well.
Just like in 2012, 2014, or back to when side imaging first came out, early 2000s. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know that this is just a transition. It's scary to a lot of older dudes, and I say older dudes, but guys who have worked their asses off to pattern fish and to know what adjustments to make. And I could say this too, you feel robbed. You feel robbed when you see a guy who's just out of high school, just out of college, come up and smoke you, after all those years and years.
I get it, but do you not feel that Harold Allen and Tom Mann and Larry Nixon and Roland Martin and Jimmy Houston and Bo Dowden and all those guys felt robbed when they had a rock or a brush pile that they used a flasher and had to go 6 inches off every point to find, and then KV comes right down the middle of the point, finds it 120 feet out, drops a waypoint on it,
and he did it, and that's
do you not think they felt robbed?
Exact feeling. That's the
and
same
guess what?
feeling.
A couple of them adapted. Larry Nixon. Look at what Larry Nixon has done. Fritz adapted to some point. Klunz adapted to some point. But there's a bunch of those guys. I know for a fact they're still bitter about the damn GPS and the side imaging and all that.
You're completely right. But now
triangulation is no longer an art.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's just one of those transitions again that is amplified by a million because of the social media stuff.
So I'll also say this, and this is, I think, the crux of everything. In any individual sport, you're providing for your family, your wife, your future, your brand, your business. At the top level, say there's 100 on the Elite Series and there's 79 on the BPT. There's 179 anglers that are all individual LLC sole proprietors, some for themselves, some for family. Some have 50,000, 60,000 expenses. Others are trying to cover $500,000 depending on their spread. You have all sorts of walks of life, economic backgrounds, diversities in it. When it comes down to it, when it comes down to nut cutting time, and this isn't just fishing, this is in everything. When you are in a competitive environment, you are going to lobby for what is best for you. Individually,
179,
150%, you are going to lobby what is best for you individually, even if that is not what is best for the common good, because you have made it that far because you have relied on yourself. And that is why there will never be a long-term or longevity of mass agreement. Especially with little things like this.
Yeah, and going back to the 2019 thing where we've had an open floor to discuss any of this stuff, email chains of 100 different or 80 different anglers, the opinions always, the opinions are always thrown out there to benefit that person, obviously. And then we've seen it here just these last couple of days when the NPFL, stated what they stated. They're banning it, and you could see all the different agendas popping out, and people say it out there publicly. what their agenda is to benefit their LLC, just like you said. It'll never ever change either, right? I mean, it'll never change.
Me included. You could care less about power brakes on the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact you. Haven't had them. Don't make a cent.
Yeah.
Power Brake sponsors the show. I believe in the things. I literally top 10 on Leech Lake because I was able to go with the wind. I was able to find the boulder that I wanted to cast with. I was able to hit the power brakes, stop 100 feet away, and present a bait while everyone else on day 2 was going
right past them. Yep.
I've made impassioned plea to it. It is on my agenda to try to make sure that the competition committee knows that these are a valuable tool that has nothing to do with anything else, and that they need to be, had I not had them, if I didn't have that, if I didn't know it, wouldn't even be on my radar. But that's high on my radar.
Absolutely. Great. That's a
because
great
it
example.
Impacts me.
Yep. And you times that by, 179, and it's from one spectrum to the other. And could you imagine trying to manage all of that? Like, to be, Chase or Chris Bowes or Lisa Talmadge, that is tough. It really is tough. That's a tough job.
Does everyone get along in other individual sports? Or do you think, you've got a little bit of look behind the scenes in some individual high-end sports, big money sports. Is there just as much dissatisfaction?
Yeah. You look at NASCAR. I've had the privilege of fishing with a couple of them. These are, high intensity professionals. They've got some negative things to say about their competition or the competition's approach or equipment or whatever it is. It's the same thing. That's just human nature. It is. And I imagine it's the same thing with golf. You saw, with the Netflix,
Full Swing,
the golf documentary where guys will hate on each other or because he did this thing one way, and same thing in fishing. I hate this guy because he cut me off, and I'm going to hate him for 2 or 3 years. Or I heard one thing about this guy, and we're all going to hate him for a few years. It's human nature.
I got Brett Cannon was throwing the 5-inch swim bait at Leech to find some of the fish, and I got to look at that.
I'll send you some if you don't have any.
Yeah,
Thursday. We're gonna have dinner Thursday, right?
We are. We're coming down to the stockyards.
Yes, we are.
We are definitely having.
Oh, and by the way, we were in the stockyards. For those of you who don't know, Fort Worth stockyards. A lot of cool history there. They, they've got the big longhorn cattle that come out and do the cattle drive and all that. A lot of history there. But yeah, for the Classic, for those of you who are planning to attend the Classic, you guys are in for a treat. And if you haven't booked your tickets, easy flights into DFW. DFW is awesome. The stockyards, we're going to, the Bilge Zaldain's crew is going to throw a huge party. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And Fort Worth is just big enough, but just small enough to host an event like the Bassmaster Classic. And stockyards is a really cool place. Bring your hat, bring your boots. And if you don't have any, there's plenty of shops to get them.
You can get them down there
easily. Yeah.
Like really cool.
Yeah.
Did I come across as pissed in that last segment, Chris?
No. Why? Was there a comment? Yeah.
Yeah. Max was like, why is Matt so pissed? I was just trying, I just was sorry. I didn't come across as pissed. No, but so you seem to have launched one of a non-forward facing sonar bait very successfully with with that line through, especially in 2 different sizes. That thing's done totally out packaged on the shelves and all the sizes now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 5-inch, 6-inch, and 8.5-inch. But it looks like a mag draft. It's similar to a mag draft, but the whole top hook design is something I've been working with and played with for over 10 years. And I actually brought the idea to some of the people I worked for. But to be able to do it with Bass Mafia is awesome. And a lot of, you said it was not a forward facing sonar thing. A lot of guys are using it on forward facing sonar, just like they would a ball headed swim bait. But a lot of guys are catching a lot of big fish. The coolest thing about that swim bait, this is the Zaldain's Loaded, is it stays true. It stays absolutely true, whether it's falling, it kind of stays, belly down, back up with the top hook up, or when you're crawling on the bottom, it stays true, doesn't roll. You could burn it, you could slow roll it, catches a lot of big fish. And matter of fact, just before we left up north about a month ago, myself and Charles, my camera guy, we hopped in. He's never been on Ray Roberts, so I took him out to Ray Roberts. We fished a little Wednesday night, and we won a Wednesday night tournament on that bait. It was absolutely amazing fishing some offshore structure out there, and going back to the Ray Roberts thing. In March, we're going to see several 30 racks, and it's going to be, oh dude, absolutely.
So it didn't show out last time.
No, heck no. That was June. The fish were scattered in the bushes. It's funny, Matt. I don't think I told you this, but when they announced the Classic was going to be on Ray Roberts in 2025, back in February of this year, I went out in March, later, last half of February, early part of March. I went out just to see things, same time of year. And every time I'd catch one on a jig-headed minnow, I was pissed. I was like, no, please don't bite this thing in March. And just because I know, come March 2025, if it's still legal, I mean, guys will be doing that and weighing huge bags.
Well, the jig-head minnows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's, I was pissed every time I'd catch a 6, 7, 8 pounder on that thing. And I don't know. We'll see what Bass does. Again, going back to that whole conversation again, it's we'll see what they do.
All right. Anything else you want to get in here? When's the bilge return? Kind of what's your schedule look like for the rest? I know you're going to South Africa. Is you going to get that trip over, probably do some shows there and have things come back? And then are there going to be people that are going to follow you on your journey? Because I would imagine there's a lot of cool stuff going on down in South Africa. Yeah, myself and my wife Trey and Charles, the camera guy, he'll have a camera rolling the whole time. So we leave a week from yesterday. We're going to be in South Africa for 21 days. We'll film it all. We've got 4 different lakes lined up. And for those of you who don't know, South Africa is full of huge bass. And the season is opposite to ours. So we are coming out of summer right here in the United States. But they are coming out of winter right now. So it's going to be a pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn time for South Africa. 4 different lakes. We have a huge event sponsored by Bass Mafia, the huge fishing distributor out there. Just started carrying Bass Mafia stuff, so I'm going to bring a handful of baits, reels, and a handful of swim baits, and we're just going to go have a blast. We've got a South African safari lined up. We've got a tiger fishing trip lined up, and if you don't know what a tiger fish is, dude, no way.
Oh my gosh, dude, Google that. There's some videos floating around where tiger fish come completely out of the water to eat birds off the surface. So that'll be cool. But to be honest with you, after fishing all season long, I'm more excited about the wildlife, the big 5, they call them out there, all the big animals, the rhinos, the hippos, the leopards, the lions, all the giraffe, all that stuff. I'm more excited to see that stuff and put my hands on snakes and lizards and things like that. I know
you gotta be careful what you're grabbing.
Oh yeah, they'll bite back. They hunt you back down there.
It'll be like the last thing that ever bites you.
Yeah, it's. I was in Bass Pro Shops yesterday. We did a little shopping, and I was looking for the Steve Irwin outfit, the super short 7-inch khaki shorts with the khaki shirt.
Patrick Walters already bought them all out.
I know, that's the thing. And so we'll be doing that whole thing. So that'll be cool. So you guys can follow along with all the videos then. And we still have on the YouTube channel, we still have the Champlain event, the St. Lawrence River event, both practice and tournament days out there to release. But yeah, the South Africa trip's going to be awesome. As soon as we get back from there, we've got the One Bass US Open. Very, very cool tournament. I encourage everyone from the Midwest or even out east to fish that tournament. Very, very cool tournament out there. We've seen guys like Spencer Sheffield, Josh Bertrand, a bunch of Rick Clun, all those guys.
Mojave this year.
It's on Mojave this year. A lot of forward-facing sonar, smallmouth stuff. But very awesome tournament ran by Billy Egan, and and then that's it for fishing for me for the rest of the year. And then we'll hop into some bilge podcasts. Again, the biggest obstacle for us is having our guests live, but she's got this whiteboard here behind me with plans on.
I have the same one. I'm looking at mine right now. It's like a yearly planner, and then it's like scribbled in.
Yeah, it's she's got a lot of ideas on that thing, and every time I touch it or erase something, she gets mad.
I'm actually home. I don't know if I announced this. I don't think I'm going to the last. Well, I'm obviously not going to the Mississippi River for the last Open. I got 7 of 9 in. No, because I qualified for that Bass Nation Championship on Grand. It goes off limits October 12th, I believe.
Spend time there.
And that gives me some time.
Heck
That tournament's wild, dude. Like you fish that grassroots stuff a little bit and coming up, like that's 3 days for everything you've ever worked for.
Oh, dude.
Elite Series, Classic, entry fees, boat, truck, title, cash. Like it has it all.
How many guys are in that tournament?
Like 220, I think, between 200 and 250.
That's a lot, dude.
But it's, from all 4 different regions. And I mean, there's some guys who are really stalwarts on grand in that too. But I mean, as a whole, there's the majority of the field has not seen grand before. So
yeah. I like your chances there. That's a good call with your Leech Lake top 10. I mean, that's a good way to end the open season and just concentrate on that one tournament.
Mm-hmm. Anything else, Chris?
No, man. It's always good catching up with you, Matt. And make sure you tell Jeffries hello. Matter of fact, I need to call Jeffries.
Yeah, give Jeffries a call. He'd appreciate
I'll give him a call, and hopefully we can break this thing out at the start of the season next year, either during the Classic or one of the 2 Texas events that I hear we're going to have. And that's another thing about professional bass fishing is like the schedule and social media. Like guys, it seems like guys already know the schedule. I've been getting text messages from dudes. Oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? And I'm like, no, I didn't. But thank you for telling me. Like,
I mean, I've got the whole schedule. Who knows if it's right or not?
Right. And for those of you listening that don't know, like how did they figure that out? Is it because the permits? Like,
you have to do the permit, and then you have someone in the Chamber of Commerce, and if you have someone who's in the Chamber of Commerce or who's with the city with the permit who knows it, then he obviously knows the big time pro in that area, and then he says, hey, we just got a permit for 2026. I mean, when that thing came to Decatur in 2012 for the Bass postseason or the All-Star event,
right,
like a year in advance, it was like, hey, they had this money, they needed to spend it, so and so was a bass fisherman on it, boom, we got permits for Shelbyville, for Decatur, and it's coming, and it wasn't announced for another 6 or 7 months.
Wildfire.
But that's how it works on everything. Yeah. And then you have buddies who have buddies who have other buddies. And then there's the only true way to do it is to freaking Ray Scott it.
Yeah.
Put y'all up in an airplane.
Yep.
Have 5 people who know where the dang tournament is. Open up a envelope that has 3 different lakes on it. Because if you're sending stuff to the different lakes and then say, hey, all your boats will be here in 2 days.
Again, dynamic thinking is what it's going to take for this sport to move forward, and I hope we could achieve that.
I would love to see a throwback like that. Like do an all-star tournament where you take the top 12 after this, you do the airplane thing, you have them open it up in it.
Yep.
And
just one tackle box full of jig-headed minnows and
one tackle box that weighs
minnows.
That weighs whatever the weight was. Wasn't it a total weight?
I think so, yeah.
And then if you broke a rod, you were out that rod. That's like 6 rods and reels.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
But you could trade with other anglers, I think.
Yeah, I wish we would, dude. I wish we would.
That first one that I went to in 98, it was still like that. Like you had a tackle bag, and then there were the 50 Rangers lined up. I think it was Rangers back then still. It might have been Tritons. Would it go Rangers and then Tritons?
I think so, yeah.
All right, I'm going to let you go. I appreciate it, dude.
Guys.
That was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it, boys.
Did you paint that behind you?
No, that's the Bass artist who does a lot of the artwork for Bass. Yeah, Trey really liked that painting. So, but what's his name? Bobby Murga or something like that.
He does. That's that style.
Yeah,
that kind of cartoon.
Yeah, but
realistic cartoon.
It's 2 raccoons and a skunk in a canoe fishing. And there's an Indian on the bank that's mad at him for fishing his water. So kind of cool.
All right, dude. Awesome.
All right, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. The one and only Chris Zaldain. Take a final break of the show. When we come back, wrap things up, and then we're going to reset things. And we're going to go live again at 10 a.m. with Brad Fuller from the NPFL to talk about their major decision that came down on Labor Day yesterday. No FFS in the NPFL. It's a lot of acronyms in 2025. BTL on a Tuesday. We'll be back right after this.
Your early morning mentality is your every hour mentality. All gas, no brakes. Focus, purpose, power. Destined for the water, but confident everywhere else. A calming buzz before the storm, the truth of nature itself. You can't catch lightning in a bottle. There's a limit out there, but it's not with your gear. Unrelenting power delivery. Unparalleled weight savings. Keeping you on the water whether you run a 9.9 or outscoping your best 5. In this rare air, there's power in the silence. It's a mindset, thinking only of the things that matter and freeing your mind from the things that you trust.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Yes. Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing, someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose Spro.
Denali Fishing has me covered on the Bassmaster Opens. From their line of high-end rods, from the Android series all the way to the TAC series, the Novus series bait casting reels, all the way to the Covert series of tungsten in the cylindrical and the teardrop shapes. Denali has everything to keep me covered, whether I'm finesse fishing for smallmouth on the Great Lakes or flipping for largemouth in the slop down in Florida. The complete lineup is always on my deck and in my boxes. Denali Fishing. Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Brake Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Brakes, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Brake Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
All right, welcome back. Wrapping things up, BTL here on a Tuesday with Chris Zaldain. It is amazing, just this strategic brand growth from the Zaldangerous brand, all the way for just, Mercer gave him the nickname and it works, and then the Bilge podcast. And then taking care of things on the water too. That's probably the toughest part, is taking care of the fishing on the water with so much noise going on off of it. I know that's what all of the pros used to talk about. Kevin, was how he was able to do so much for so many sponsors off the water, maintain the professional side, maintain the business side, maintain the family side, and then go out and just smoke everybody on the water. But I mean, definitely a different era. I don't think we could have, this conversation doesn't exist 5 years ago, on BTL. Although we had conversations 5 years ago that didn't exist 5 years before. That's kind of what keeps people coming back and back and back in progressions and what's going to happen in news. It's to kind of circle back to the beginning of the show. Like I said, is it education? Is it entertainment? The 3 E's: educate, entertain, and engage. Still try to keep those principles that Jeffrey's installed at BTL. But when it comes down to it, everybody loves this sport, watches it, follows it, does it for a different reason. Some people obviously follow it to to get out a little anger in their everyday life, maybe to escape from reality, to learn something because you have a joy of fishing. It's different for everybody. So, all right, we're done for today. For the moment, I'm going to shoot Brad Fuller from the NPFL a StreamYard link here in a little bit. We'll get the thing fired back up. I have no idea how long we're going to go with Brad. I know his phone has to absolutely be ringing off the hook, the main man behind the decision for no forward-facing sonar during the 2025 season on the MPFL. We had Brad on for a full segment earlier this year when we were up at the Bass Cat Owners Tournament in Arkansas. He came on, talked a lot about the upcoming season, which would have been the 2024 season at the time. Then always have enjoyed his perspective and his willingness to share on BTL what is the good, the bad, the ugly with the MPFL. And quite frankly, there's been a lot of good lately. So that is all we have. Big shout out to Chris Zaldain. Make sure to follow him, the Bilge podcast, the Zaldangerous YouTube channel, and all of his adventures as he heads to South Africa with Trait here in the next week. So we'll be back shortly with Brad Fuller from the MPFL. See ya.